I don't really know what equality means. I think it's a very tendentious term, and people interpret it in their own way. But the idea that irrespective of your race or religion, or ability, disability, sexuality, you'll be treated in the same way, I think is probably worth aspiring to. And the Toronto District School Board in particular is vehement in saying we're about equality. It seems a great deal of the time to be about Islam and homosexuality. However, maybe that's just the way I'm reading it. But what about when it comes to issues of disability, which I think are the most important, really? I would say race and disability, where people really have been badly treated in the past. And there's a story now that might surprise you. Marcy White is my guest. And, well, tell us your story.
I have a son who's 10 years old, and he's got a severe disability called Pelizaeus-Merzbacher disease. He's in a wheelchair. He doesn't move on his own. He doesn't speak, but he understands everything. And the school that he's been at wasn't fully meeting his needs.
In Toronto? In
Toronto. So I looked around, and last year I found a school that did meet his needs, and he started attending there one afternoon a week.
Right.
And it had turned out to be the most phenomenal experience. He was able to learn and be exposed to the regular Ontario curriculum with kids his own age. He made friends. He had kids over to his house. He went to their houses. He got invited to birthday parties. Basically, typical childhood experiences that we take for granted, and he was, up until now, unable to have. And I wanted to increase the amount of time he spent at Elkhorn, at the school.
So that's the other school. And the school, sorry to interrupt, but the school he went to initially was your local school?
No, it wasn't. It was a school for kids with physical disabilities.
Oh, I see. And the school you then chose, is that nearer or further away?
It's close to the school where he was at.
Okay, okay. So geographically, not much of an issue?
No, no.
And also a school that dealt with disability, or just the general?
No, a school that dealt with regular kids from the neighborhood.
Isn't that what we're trying to achieve?
Well, I would have thought so. I mean, the TDSB held a big conference in May of this year promoting equality and integration. And in fact, you know, on the bio of one of the key organizers and the person whose decision it was to not allow Jacob to increase the amount of time spent at the school, her bio says that she's passionate about inclusive and equitable education and is a strong advocate of progressive practices to narrow the opportunity and achievement gaps of students.
When you hear the word progressive combined with passionate, be very wary indeed. So he went to this school. I mean, I do know a little about disability and so on, and if you can incorporate kids, it's better for them and better for the others too. So he went to this other school. It was wonderful. It's what you wanted. So what's wrong with the picture?
Well, it wasn't just what I wanted. It worked wonderfully for him. It was great for the other kids. In fact, one of the parents of the children at the school wrote me a letter, and we submitted it to the TDSB, and in it he explained how his children's lives have been changed by being exposed to Jacob.
You submitted a letter, so what you're saying is the school board objected to this?
Well, I've submitted several letters, and yes, the TDSB is not allowing Jacob to spend any more time at Elkhorn. Well, they've actually relented, because at first they said they didn't want him to continue coming to the school in the first place.
What reason did they give?
They were afraid of the precedent that it would set. They were afraid that other parents like me might want to have their children involved in mainstream schools.
Loving parents of kids with handicap will want their children and other kids to get the best education possible. That seems to be a glorious precedent, not a negative one.
Well, I would have thought so.
So they objected?
They objected. And I continued, and they came back to me with an alternative that they were posing as, you know, a wonderful solution where Jacob can go to a school that was close to his current school. The only problem is it wasn't wheelchair accessible, so he'd have to be in the basement. And when I said, what would he do in the basement? And he said, well, that's where the gym is, so they can watch the other kids participate in phys ed.
Why not put him at the back of the bus? I mean, for goodness sake, this is outrageous. This is outrageous. If he claimed he'd been bullied for being homosexual, they'd be out in protesting. So they're saying to him, everything is working. The teachers accept it, the other kids accept it, everyone is fine with it. But they say no because it might create a precedent. What do you do?
Well, not only does it create a precedent, then they came back and said to me that you're not allowed to be registered in 2 schools. And then they came back to me and said, oh, well, we made a mistake. You can be registered in 2 schools, only you're not allowed to choose the schools, so we will choose the schools for you.
Jeez. What did you do?
What did I do? Well, I wrote letters. I wrote letters to Donna Kwan, who's the deputy director of the TDSB, who rejected our request. I tried to get in touch with Chris Spence, and I haven't heard back from him. He's the director of the TDSB.
Come on, he's far too important and earning far too much public money to deal with people like you.
It's only one little boy. All I'm trying to do, I'm a mother trying to get the best education that she can for her child.
What's the situation now?
As of right now, Jacob is not allowed to spend any more than a half a day a week at the school come September. And this is something I've been working on since February.
So you have to take him to one school, pick him up, in wheelchair too. I assume you have a car that caters to that.
No, I don't have a car. No, I have a van, so we lift him up and put him in a car seat and then have to lift up a 100-pound wheelchair to put it in the van.
To another school.
Yeah.
It's not enough having a child who has these challenges. You have to do all this as well. When I read about this story, I thought there was some error. I thought, no, someone's got it wrong. This is actually what happened.
It is. And clearly the TDSB is doing what's easiest for them and not what's best for Jacob. Jacob deserves an education, a social and an academic education, and I'm not even asking them to try something new or do an experiment. We have over a year's worth of proof.
And no complaints. Everyone is so happy with it.
We have teachers who have written to support this. We've got parents who have written to support this. There's not one person who has spoken out against it.
You, your son, parents of other children, teachers, everyone is in favor of it, but a few overpaid officials at the school board level, they have a problem with this. I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised at all. Do you have any politicians going to bat for you? I've been working since February with our school trustee, who had been going to bat for us. Who's your MP or MPP?
I'm not sure who that. No.
It's worth finding out, because especially if they think there's a few votes in it. But I mean,
well,
seriously.
When I called the MPP office, they said that they would just refer it to the school trustee.
No, that's not good enough. You know what we'll do after this, because I'll have to find out. We'll find out your MPP and your MP, in fact, and if they're half decent, they can bring pressure, believe me. A lot of this is how many strings you can pull and who you know, and this is outrageous, and these people, they're little tin pot dictators.
And that's just it, because there has been one person within the TDSB who actually took the time to go to the school, meet Jacob, meet the teacher, and she'd been a very strong advocate for us. She's the only person that actually saw it.
All right. We'll get details from you, and we'll readdress this issue as well. We won't let it go. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Quebec, on our return, province, country, separate entity. There's a new poll, a new survey with some very interesting conclusions. Wait and see.